Neck and shoulders. Neck is a good one. All right, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We're really excited for this program. This is our first webinar for Mobility Matters 2026. This is one of our favorite programs that we run every year, so we're excited to have you with us. A couple of housekeeping items. This is being recorded, so we will post the recording after the webinar. We'll post it in this chat. We'll post it on Engage, and then you can also find it on our YouTube channel. We will also be posting the slides. So as we go through, you'll see there's going to be a few things linked in the slides. We'll post the PDF so that you have access to those links. So we're going to jump in with some introductions. My name is Kimber. I am a program manager on our team in Colorado Springs, Colorado. As I mentioned, this is one of my personal favorite programs. I have been a part of this program for the last few years, and I think my favorite part of it is just teaching you guys and learning myself how a little bit goes a long way. So that's what I hope you guys get out of this program, but that's probably my favorite part. So I'll pass it on to Abby.
Yeah. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name's Abby. I'm the health fitness professional here at the Houston site. This is actually my first webinar that I'm a part of, and I'm super excited to be a part of it. I was like given a few options of like what to be a part of, and I love mobility. And the subject of it, similar to like what Kimber was saying, a little goes a long way, but also it's been very impactful in my life. Like I said earlier, like I have tight hips. It's a very common thing. It's caused like back issues throughout my whole life. It's actually what got me into the field. Was my back issues that were like tight hip flexor compensation type thing. So I'm very passionate about it, and I'm really, really excited to get to see the results from the webinar. So I'm gonna give it back to Kimber.
Sweet. Thanks, Abby. So today, we are going to talk about how to get the most out of this program. We'll talk about all the different components of the program, and then why it matters, why we think mobility matters, why it's changed our lives, like we were both saying. So that's kind of what we're going to get into. So program overview. The goal of this program is basically to show us why mobility matters. We hope that you finish this program learning how even a small mobility routine, mobility routine can make a big impact on your well-being, just overall. I think when we think about adding to our daily routine, especially when it comes to movement, it often feels pretty overwhelming, pretty daunting. The time it takes, choosing the movements to incorporate, prioritizing it in our schedules, it can just feel like a lot. In our registration questions, 30% of you said you do not know where to start when it comes to developing a mobility routine, while 53% of you said you simply just forget to do it or prioritize it. And we completely understand that. We are in the same boat. So this program is designed with all of those things in mind. We want you to spend this month with us trying all different kinds of mobility movements that are on the calendar. So we've added a variety. We've included a variety of them. And we want you to practice prioritizing it in your schedule. Practice being the key word there. There's going to be times when you don't fit them all in, and that's okay. At the end of this program, our hope is that you have found the time or times of day that are realistic for your schedule, and you take the movements that made the greatest impact on you and keep them as a part of your regular routine. So what the program consists of. In order to accomplish these goals, we've included a 4-week calendar with daily assignments along with these weekly webinars. With any longer term goal like this 4-week one, it takes endurance, which often takes discipline, which sometimes is not fun. But as the weeks go on, you'll see the assignments get longer. So as that happens, I want you to remember the goals we just went over. We want you to finish this program with just a handful of favorite mobility movements. We are not expecting you to take this full 4-week calendar and just keep repeating it, or do 10 mobility exercises every single day. We want you to come out of this with a realistic daily routine that works for you. That might be different than for me. So if you get to a day in this program and you don't have time or you forget to do it, I want you to try your best not to let that discourage you from continuing the program. That's why we have set calendar invites every week to just remind you, like, this is a new week. You can start from scratch. If you didn't get anything done last week in the program, let's start again. So we have built-in catch-up days every week, and we just want to remind you that any movement is better than no movement. So as you work through your calendars, you'll notice that the movements build. You will start with mobilization movements that release your muscles. The muscles we are focusing on here are muscles that are consistently overactive in the majority of the population. Overactive simply just means that they're turned on or holding tension more often than not. This is what the question is in the chat. So a lot of you said your back and your shoulders. That was my example, is your upper traps. Our upper traps tend to hold a lot of our stress without us even realizing it. This stress causes the tension, and in turn, our shoulders live in this elevated position close to our ears a lot of the time. And this is what causes that overactivity, because to raise our shoulders, our upper traps turn on or engage. In order to break the effects of this overactivity, we need to release them with mobilization. So after mobilization, we start to add in activation movements. The goal of these movements is to activate the underactive muscles, like your glutes, for example. Underactive muscles are muscles that are not consistently called upon, so they get sleepy, is what we like to call it. Our glutes are a great example of this because a lot of us sit all day at our jobs, so the glute muscles are lengthened out, and the muscle kind of gets turned off. Like our brain just gets used to not calling on these muscles. So because of this, when we do want to activate them, it can be kind of a challenge to get our brain to connect with those muscles. This is where that activation comes in. We spend time isolating that specific muscle in order to wake up that mind-body connection again so that they're ready to be called upon. The combination of mobilizing and activating both over and underactive muscles leads to being able to maintain neutral positions in your spine while doing daily activities. Basically, we want to protect our spine. We want to move in the most efficient way. So the ability to do both of these things and keep our neutral position helps us move better in our everyday life. So finally, we will add in dynamic movement. The purpose of these exercises is to teach our bodies how to maintain those neutral positions we just learned while we start to add in more movement. These three together create the acronym that you will hear us refer to as MAD, Mobilization, Activation, Dynamic. This is also the structure we use to program our warm-ups. So if you've ever taken any of our CubeFit classes, you've likely completed a MAD structured warm-up before and you just didn't know it. So now we're going to go over some tips for success. Step one to being successful in this program is to get your hands on a foam roller or a massage ball or both, preferably both. We know that there are countless options, so we're keeping it pretty basic. A few of you in the registration said you would like to figure out how to mobilize with no equipment. And while a lot of our exercises that we've included in the calendar don't require equipment, when it comes to mobilizing, it's really helpful to have these tools because they can get deeper than even just our fingers can. When you think about muscles like your traps or your glutes, they're thick, big muscles, and so you need sometimes that extra tool to get a little deeper into them. So we highly encourage you to get your hands on these. We've linked two basic options on the slide, and then they're also in the calendar invite you received this past Monday. You'll see when you click on the foam roller, there's several sizes. We prefer the 36-inch size, and this helps if you lie on the foam roller, your head and your hips will be supported. So it's the most comfortable size. If you need a smaller one for space purposes, a smaller one is totally fine, especially for this program. Step two, we want you to download and follow the calendar and make sure to check off the movements as you complete them. We also have a mobile version of this. You can see on the screen, you can download that once you get the slides. It's also, again, on your calendar invite. On each version of the calendar, you just need to click the name of the exercise, and it will bring you to a video of how to complete that exercise. Now, you'll not have to turn this in at the end of the program. This is for your knowledge, but it's helpful to check them off as you go. And that way, if you missed one, you know which one you want to go back to. You will see the rest and catch-up days that I've mentioned. So these happen every Sunday. So if you had to skip a day or weren't able to fit all of the exercises in on a certain day as they get longer, Sunday is the perfect day to try them out. We also want to encourage you to attend all of the webinars or watch the recordings. We're going to record every single one. These webinars will be where we teach you why this information actually matters and how to apply it and make it a realistic, regular practice. So we highly encourage your attendance. This is where you're just going to learn and get a good amount of the takeaways for this program. So step 3, the final step in the tips for success, prioritizing movement is often the hardest part of a program like this, especially when we talk about doing it for 4 weeks. We can get busy with work, family, chores, all of the things, and movement exercise is usually the first thing that goes. So in order to break that pattern, we need to add in tools that almost force us to do it. This is where that discipline comes in. So things like adding a calendar reminder or setting a reoccurring alarm on your phone can be super helpful. You'll see that on the weekly calendar invites, we are encouraging you to break up the daily assignments into what we call movement snacks. We really love this concept because it's a great reminder that you do not need to complete all the movements at once. It can actually be really beneficial for your body to break up movement throughout the day. So if you need to do that, we want you to break it into chunks that's doable for you. Moving the body increases energy, it opens up blood vessels, increases heart rate, and improves circulatory function. So even just a 1 to 5 minute break from your desk can help increase your productivity when you return. So scheduling those a few times throughout the day and just choosing 1 or 2 movements rather than one big chunk at the end of your day or the beginning of your day to do all 8 of the movements can be really beneficial. You'll see on the slide I've linked a Fit Chat episode here if you want to learn more about the benefits of those movement snacks. So I'm going to turn it over to Abby so she can dive into a little bit more info about mobility and why we love it and it makes a difference.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to get into some of the fun stuff about mobility. First, we're going to address what mobility is. Most people use the terms mobility and flexibility interchangeably, but they're actually very different. So we are going to start by differentiating between the two of them. So mobility is the ability of a joint to move actively through a range of motion freely and easily, while flexibility is the ability of a muscle to lengthen passively through a range of motion. So it's important to understand the difference because you have flexibility in the muscle group, but you might have limited mobility in your joint or vice versa. So for example, like I have a hypermobile neck, which means my cervical joints in my neck, so my vertebrae, they have a very large range of motion, but I get really bad tension headaches from tight muscles in my neck stemming from my traps or even this muscle right here. That's a very long name that I never remember. But yeah, and like sometimes this hypermobility, like the tightness in my neck sometimes comes from the hypermobility in my joints. So sometimes they can play off of each other. But another example actually comes from y'all. So we took a poll during our registration, and 53% of you said that you could touch your toes, which indicates that you have good hamstring flexibility. But then 51% of you said that you have a lot of tightness or discomfort in your pelvis and hip area. Now this could be due to tight hip flexors, or it could be joint immobility in the hips. So why is mobility so important? So a phrase we love to use in fitness is motion is lotion and rest is rust. Your joints are filled with a fluid called, or a liquid called synovial fluid, and it acts like an oil, kind of like oil does in a car, or like basically it's your body's version of WD-40 for your joints. And movement increases the lubrication of the joints, which allows for a greater range of motion. And then another common saying that we say a lot is use it or lose it. So we say this a lot in building strength and maintaining strength, but it applies to mobility as well. Your body was made to move on a daily basis and frequently through different shapes, ranges of motion and different postures. So you're not supposed to be static and sit in one place for 8 hours. You're supposed to move around a lot. You might get a great workout routine, say like you get an hour every morning before you come into work or an hour in the evening after work, but it doesn't cancel out that 8 hours that you're spending sitting at your desk in one position with a posteriorly tilted pelvis or standing at your desk with an anterior tilt. Like it doesn't cancel that out. You have to get your movement snacks in, like Kimber was saying, because there's a lot of people who work out and still struggle with mobility. And this is partly because connective tissue has about 1/10 of the metabolic rate that muscle tissue does. So it heals and it adapts a lot slower. There's a lot less blood flow in it. And so that's why frequent movement is key for long-term adaptation. So yeah, here's some of the lists of benefits for movement. There's a lot of them, but these are the main pointers. So stimulation and circulation of synovial joint fluid, which we just talked about, improved range of motion, correction and reduction of muscular imbalances. We talk a lot about the hip flexors, a lot about the pelvis. Kimber was talking about underactive versus overactive. Mobilization reduces that because your joints are in the correct position, so your muscles are also in the correct position. Decreased risk of injury. We have, like I said earlier, my back issues came from those tight hip flexors pulling on my back and my weak glutes. And I almost ended up with a herniated disc at 17. So decreased risk of injury, decreased muscle soreness, post-workout, just in general, you move more comfortably. Stimulation of tissue recovery, improved physical performance, and stress relief, and promotes relaxation, stimulates that vagal nerve that helps your body decompress and come out of that fight or flight. All right. So next we're going to talk about fascia, which I'm so excited because fascia is so cool. So we're going to start with like, what is it and why does it matter? So fascia is a mesh or web-like casing of collagen fibers that surrounds and connects and stabilizes every single nerve fiber, blood vessel, organ, and bone and muscle in your body. It covers you. You have it from head to toe. It covers your whole body. And it's that white film that you see on chicken breasts, like animals have it too, because they have muscle. So it's like that white when you cut through chicken, it's that white film. So it's also what your IT band is made out of. So we hear runners complain a lot about that IT band, or that pinching in the knee when you run that kind of feels like a sharp pain. That's IT band. That's bound fascia, which we are going to talk about. And when we talk about mobility, we have to talk about fascia because it's full of nerves and it helps communicate with your brain and other structures. And these fascial nerves actually work a lot faster than other types of nerves in your tissue or in other types of tissue in your organs, muscles, etc. Your skin contains the most nerves, more nerves than any other body part, but fascia has almost as many nerves as your skin does, which makes it very sensitive to stress. And just like muscles, when it gets stressed, it tightens up. Tension and stress can build in the fascia from lack of movement, repetitive poor posture, overuse, or scar tissue buildup from previous or present injuries. And this tension and stress causes fascia to become bound, and bound meaning it gets sticky and thick and it restricts your movement and muscle function. Bound fascia is actually like one of the contributed causes of cellulite. It's not the main cause. There's a lot of factors that play into that, including genetics, but unhealthy fascia can make cellulite a lot worse. And then another thing that plays into fascia is hydration. It has a huge role in keeping fascia healthy. Does anyone have any guesses at what percentage of fascia is made up of water? You can put it in the chat. Okay. All right. So 70% of fascia is made up of water. So dehydration plays a huge role into unhealthy fascia. So borderline unhealthy fascia isn't good. So what do we do about it? We are going to talk about ways to release it. And one of those methods is self-myofascial release, like foam rolling. Massage, foam rolling, are both tools of are forms of tool-assisted or self-massage, also known as myofascial release, will be one of the main methods included in this program's calendar. They help lengthen and smooth out fascia and connective tissue surrounding your muscles, which allows your body to regain and maintain flexibility and strength. It's important to address some of the contraindications of foam rolling because it's not for everyone. So I'm just going to list a few of these conditions. Organ failure, bleeding disorders, aneurysms, acute rheumatoid arthritis, advanced diabetes, and or severe osteoporosis all require clearance from your doctor. So if you have any of those, then get cleared by your doctor first. But other than that, we're cool. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is pain. So sometimes exercise and stretching can feel quite uncomfortable, especially if you're tight. But just because something feels uncomfortable doesn't mean that it's harmful. Pain and discomfort are related, but they're not the same thing. And learning to tell the difference is key to understanding your body. This is especially relevant during stretching, foam rolling, and deep tissue work. For example, foam rolling after a hard workout can feel pretty intense, but that doesn't mean that it's bad. In many cases, that discomfort is actually part of the recovery process. We tend to avoid discomfort, but some level of it is necessary. It's how we build strength, it's how we improve mobility and challenge our bodies in a healthy way. At the same time, though, there is a limit. When discomfort turns into pain, that's the body's warning signal that it's your sirens are going off, something might not be right. So we're going to define the difference between pain and discomfort, and then talk about how to tell the difference. So pain is defined by the International Association of the Study of Pain as an unpleasant sensory and emotional experience associated with actual or potential tissue damage, while discomfort is defined as a physical or psychological unpleasant feeling that results in a natural response of avoidance or reduction of the source of discomfort. So the key difference in these two definitions is that pain is associated with actual or potential tissue damage. So you're in danger. But discomfort is the brain just saying, I don't like it and make it stop. Pain is uncomfortable and it is often associated with discomfort, but discomfort can exist on its own independently of pain. A good example of this would be muscle fatigue during exercise. If you've ever lifted before, or you're getting it to the end of like a long run, you're going to get a burning sensation in your muscles and you're like reaching that failure and you're like, it's really uncomfortable. But it's also a sign that your muscles are working really hard and they're adapting and they're growing, and that's how we build muscle. The goal isn't to avoid discomfort, it's to understand it, work through it, and when appropriate, recognize when it becomes something more serious. So next, we're going to establish like pain isn't bad, but how do we, it's also communicating to you, it's your brain communicating to you. So when is it something to ignore, and when is it, or it's not something to ignore, so when should you stop? Sorry, I stumbled. So a good rule of thumb to go by is stop if pain is sharp, catching, or makes you change how you move, so compensate in your movement. Also stop if it comes with swelling, bruising, or joint instability. And that catching feeling that I mentioned is often a sign of joint instability. Another helpful way to think about it is the traffic light system. And we're going to go over that. So a green light is mild discomfort. It goes away quickly when you stop. It doesn't affect how you move. And this is generally going to be fine. You'll most likely experience this when you foam roll and stretch. The next level would be a yellow light, which is about a 4 to 6 out of a 10 on the pain scale. This is moderate discomfort. It might linger for a day or two. It doesn't get worse over time. But this is your cue that, okay, maybe you pushed it a little bit, just a little bit. And then red is sirens going off. This is severe pain. It increases, it sticks around, and it changes how you move, and you need to avoid this completely. The goal over this whole thing would be to stay in that green zone. Be mindful in the yellow. You really shouldn't experience above a 4. Really, you should stay in that 1 to 4 range when you're stretching. And yeah, so I have some sources linked down here. If y'all want to look, if y'all are interested in that, y'all can click on these links when we put the slides in the chat. And then we're going to go over some myofascial release do's and don'ts. So just a few pointers for you. Okay, so release the tension first. So when you're planning on stretching or going into an exercise, running, walking, foam rolling should come first. So before static stretching and dynamic stretching, foam roll first. Or foam rolling is also really good to do as a cool down. So like after you lift, this is a great cool down and it helps manage muscle soreness after strength training or a run. Explore slowly. So when you're foam rolling and using these myofascial release techniques, take your time searching around the muscle tissue and fascia. Press into targeted area until a tender spot is found, and then spend time on the tender spots. This is really going to be where that pain scale comes in, because this is where it gets uncomfortable, right? So we find those knots, we find those tender spots, and we're like, oh, we want to back away, but you need to spend time on them. So spend between 10 and 20 seconds on it, easing into the pressure, but go slow. Like we said, like take your time, easing pressure onto the trigger point, spend a few breath cycles on it, and gently ease back out. You're going to be uncomfortable, but again, it's not always a bad thing. And use your body weight and position to control the amount of pressure. So when you hit that 4 and you start to, and you're like, okay, this is ease back, you can use your body weight to control that. And lastly, rest on it, breathe into it and move through it. Your brain's natural response to discomfort, like in that definition, is to pull away. But the quicker that you're able to relax into that stretch, breathe through it, the quicker your muscles will make that connection of like, okay, I'm safe, I'm okay, I can relax. And that's all I have. I'm gonna hand it back to Kimber. And yeah, thank y'all.
Perfect. Thanks, Abby. So just a couple of heads up. So the upcoming webinars will all be on Fridays. We moved this one for Wellness Friday, but we're going to go over all these things. And then the last week, we're actually going to do, you guys submitted a lot of great questions in your registration answers. So we're going to take all those questions and answer them slide by slide so that you guys can get those answers. And then coming up in your calendar this week, you will see that the exercises kind of build. So for this first week, Abby, can you go to the next slide real quick? You'll see that it goes all the way through Saturday. If you're just starting, that's okay. Start today. There's just a couple exercises and then it kind of builds as we go. You will see a calendar invite come through for Monday morning. That's going to show you the next week of exercises. So just take it day by day. Don't try to look ahead and get nervous, like how the heck am I going to fit this in? Just start to schedule it in your calendar. Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to open it up to questions. There's a couple in the chat. So I'm going to answer those, but I'm going to stay on for a bit, so feel free to stay, but I know we took you right to the end, so feel free to jump if you have to, and we will post the recording and the slides in the chat. Isabel asked, how about yin yoga for fascia release? This is a great question. So for those of you who don't know, yin yoga is a slower pace yoga, so you stay in poses for a lot longer. So it is great for fascia release. I'll say that when you combine things like foam rolling and yin yoga, that's where you get the best results. So like Abby said, if you foam roll prior to those static stretches, which is what yin yoga is, you're going to have a better response. Your muscles will be able to relax better in those poses because you foam rolled prior, and so your blood flow is already increased to that muscle. So obviously that's not always doable. Like you can't just like have a 30-minute foam rolling session and then go into yin yoga all the time. But if you're able to, foam rolling is a great addition to that, but yin yoga is amazing for increased flexibility and fascia release because you are breathing and holding in those positions. And so that increased blood flow does help. So that's a great question. Ruth asked, do you have to warm up prior to doing the mobility exercises? Great question. No, you do not. So these would be the reason we say foam rolling or mobility. All these movements you'll see are dynamic. So you're going to be moving through them. You're not holding a static stretch throughout this program. They're always going to be rolling on a foam roller, using a ball to trigger point. So you're moving, which means that your muscles are warming up as you move through those mobility exercises. The danger, I'll say, in like when we go to just like static stretch and we've just like sat at our desk for 6 hours and then we go and try to get into like a quad stretch and hold it, our quads are our muscles are cold. They've been sitting there, they're cold, they're tight. We've likely been shallow breathing for a long time. So mobilization comes in really handy to warm up those muscles. So you do not have to warm up before the mobility exercise. They are your warm up. They will get your body warm. They're great to do before even a walk. Great questions, you guys. If you guys have any more, feel free to put them in the chat or come off mute. We'll stay on for a minute or two. But thanks for joining today. This is a fun one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for coming, everyone.
Thank y'all.
All right. Oh, I don't think I stopped the recording.